But to be successful at YouTube, I definitely have to change my tune. I have to keep it interesting, keep it exciting. The algorithm of YouTube is similar to the algorithm of Google. It's really going to be based on time on site or time on YouTube presentation. If I say the same thing over and over, people are going to come here one time, they'll leave. So if Jim and my guests, for the most part, they're regular insurance agents, people that signed up for our system, but they're regular people. If these people, let's hear what they have to say, because I do not want to get repetitive. Jim, if you could push down your microphone a little bit, your camera, so you're higher. Right, and a little bit more towards your right side, because we do have the NAPE logo covering your left eye. So if you can move over to the other side, to your right side. Okay, you're good right there. We are good. Maybe a little bit down. I'm not sure if you've ever seen the evening news, but they always have a little bit of space above their head. Not too much. And you do see what we're, you don't see the NAPE logo, so you have no idea, but you're good right now. Okay, in the meantime, tell me about yourself. Where are you from? Approximately what age you are? I know at a certain age, people like to keep that a little bit of a quiet. You could say you're in your 40s, your late 30s. It's completely up to you. Tell us about yourself.
Okay, I live on Long Island, in New York. He's in the Bronx, in the shadow of Yankee Stadium. Went to the Yankee Stadium when I was a young kid in the bleachers, and I won't tell you how much it was, because then you'll know how old I am. I have recently done the last 3 years doing phone sales with computer technology, mostly in the area of law enforcement.
Okay, Jim, before we get going, you were doing many things in your life, after you went to that first Yankees game in the bleachers. My goal in life is to be a star on YouTube. So I have to figure out this whole technology stuff. We do have this 6-day per week conference call, video conference call, which I was using the equivalent to Zoom, called Uber Conference. I have to move over from there to YouTube, but it's a little bit confusing because of all these different microphones and settings. I'm going to get you off of this because there may be some sort of feedback, and put you on my ears, but I have to switch it because there's probably some sort of echo if I keep that on. Let me put this on my ears. Real tech. I have to put it to my ears. Okay, now I can hear you better, and there will be no feedback. Okay, Jim. So you were in the you tell us, what was the price of the bleachers at Yankee Stadium?
75 cents.
75 cents, and that was in the days of Mickey Mantle.
He was just about finished.
So Mickey. You were before. So in the tail end of Mickey Mantle. So we're talking about Joe DiMaggio.
Mr. Coffee, yes.
Joe DiMaggio. Okay, he did pretty well.
Years later, Joe DiMaggio tried to get into Yankee Stadium at one of the regular gates, and the security people that were doing the gates wouldn't let him in because he didn't know who he was.
Really? So if you were working there, you would have let him in?
Of course.
That is
absolutely
good. Okay, baseball was a much more popular game in the back in the day. What happened, in your opinion?
I don't know, but well, it's still popular. I mean, we didn't know what soccer was.
Yeah.
Never heard of soccer. It wasn't a sport.
Well, it's still not a big sport for viewing. It really comes down to I think it's that big screen TV. Certain games look good on big screen TVs, including golf. Even golf looks good on a TV because it's a peaceful game. It relaxes your eyes and your body. But baseball is baseball is very big in the places that are cold in the winter. Boston, Philadelphia, Chicago. But if you live in Miami or something, it's like, what's the big deal?
Right.
But 75 cents was probably helped it out as well. But that was the minimum wage. Well, what was the minimum wage back then when you were?
I don't know. I was a kid. I mean, I have no idea what the minimum wage was back then.
I mean, what was the wages if you worked at a store when you were 18 to 20 years old?
Oh, probably, I don't know, $5-6 an hour.
No, I remember. I'm a little bit younger, not too much younger. I remember it was $3.35. So when you were probably talking about $1 an hour,
Right.
$2 an hour.
Sure.
Okay. After Joe DiMaggio finished up his career, you must have had some sort of. What was your first job?
I was a truck driver for a beer company called Schaefer, which you may not have ever heard of because they're pretty much extinct now. They're in Pennsylvania. They used to be in New York, brewed in Brooklyn, and I did that for 5 years.
And from there,
I retired from working for manual labor. And became a police officer in NYPD.
NYPD. Okay, so what? And how old were you when you started becoming a police officer?
23.
Oh, so that was and usually back in that day, I remember people did 20 years, then they go to pension.
Correct.
That's an accurate number. So you got out when you were 43 years old?
Yep.
Very typical. I don't want to. Jim,
I'm no longer 43.
Right. Well, okay. So now you're selling insurance, so you have to be a little bit above 43.
Yes.
So, Jim, you are the typical person who grew up in Bronx, New York. A little bit of manual labor, become a police officer, 43 years old, you get that big pension. New York City did not go completely bankrupt, so that pension continued.
Correct.
Did that pension go up with the cost of living?
No.
So inflation is a killer for pension plans of city workers of New York.
Yes.
So what we've been going through the last 10, 15, 20 years is relatively good where there's not a lot of inflation.
Correct.
It could be much worse. I have a feeling, this is just my prognostication, we are going back to the days of inflation.
I think so too.
This is going to be like, if you look at all these South American governments that just don't know how to manage stuff, right. they end up with inflation. Their currency becomes lessened in value, and all the old, the pensioners, pay the price. But that's how they balance their budget on the pensioners.
Sure.
The reason I hate to say the word, I'm excited about going back to the days of inflation. But there's nothing like massive inflation for insurance salespeople. It's one of the it's almost like a party. Insurance companies, I'll let you know, you may or may not know this. Insurance companies have a tremendous tax advantage when it comes to interest that rolls over on a tax deferred basis and eventually becomes a tax free. Only an insurance policy has this. Unlimited money could flow into this type of retirement plan. A lot of people that come into NAIP, because we heavily advertise the word free, we get a lot of people that really don't have jobs, that didn't get hired by these big financial companies. So we get, I hate to say the word, we get the bottom of the barrel, but how else am I going to say it? And they often comes in, they sell final expense because there's a ton of these final expense companies recruiting. The final expense companies primarily are trying to the final expense marketing companies are tremendously trying to empty out new agents' bank accounts to buy leads.
Yeah, there's many, when I was researching and found you, there's many, many, many companies that are just hawking final expense on the internet.
But that is the reason they're doing it. Remember, when you're in an industry where 90% of the people don't stick around, it means 90% of the people are making a huge financial error by entering that industry because there are expenses. It could be studying for the 40-hour test, getting the fingerprints, which is $30, $40, $50, whatever they're charging. And when the people do get recruited by a final expense company, since the final expense companies know that you're probably not going to be sticking around, they want to make some sort of revenue, and their revenue will be selling you these leads. And it's only a win-win for them. You buy the lead, they made money. If you make a couple sales from there, they make money as well. Oftentimes they start you out at these really low commissions as well. They become your best friend. The technique that these recruiting companies do is they become your best friend as they're picking your pocket. Our system, which you signed up without really speaking to anyone, it's technology. Right now we have 13,000 people that have registered for our system, signed up for the free website. If we have 50,000, 100,000, or 20,000, it's the same cost to us. The one thing I could do, since I have vast knowledge in this business and I have a financial interest to get this to 50 and 100,000, is to shoot straight, to tell you exactly what's going on, which is not hard to figure out. I've noticed as well that the people that are suitable for this business make money, but even if you're not suitable, if a person is doing the proper technique for this business, they're much more likely to stick around and make money. And the proper technique is not a secret. It's number one is to avoid being taken to the cleaners by these bad apples in the industry, which are not the minority. They are the vast majority. I hate to say it's common sense logical. These companies they're befriending you. They open up local offices. They need to pay their bills, and they pay their bills by starting people off at relatively low commission levels. The final expense companies in particular, getting people to empty out their bank accounts to buy leads. But what's in your best interest is completely different from what's in their best interest. Jim, by being around for a couple of decades on this planet Earth, that the people who make money as a financial service salesperson, these may or may not be, how could I say this? When you were in your early 20s, people that were really good talkers, really smooth, the guys that would, a 22-year-old kid who's, buying like fancy clothes and, hate to use a terrible language, but they're picking up all the women. These guys become salesmen, and within a year or two, they're making big money, and other people become police officers. I hate to say that, but the fact is, as you get older, your communication skills are much superior than they were when you were in your early 20s. If you had the communication skills of today that you did have in your early 20s, you may not have become a police officer. So you do have an opportunity to be somewhat persuasive and convincing and to get in front of people and to collect decent money. But you have to do the proper technique. The proper technique, is never changed. It's to come across as a professional person and present products where you make a decent chunk of change on every sale. My favorite technique for new insurance agents happens to be, I call it the New York lifestyle, the New York life system. They don't hire everyone. If you were to apply for them, they may not accept you. But in my personal opinion, that's the most likely road to success, because you end up selling these policies where you make $400, $500, $600, $700, $800 per month. I should say that's the premium that you collect. If you're at the normal commission level through my company, we'll get you right at the top where pretty much the first year commission goes to you. In New York City or New York State, the commissions are a little bit lower, but regardless, you will be at approximately double what New York Life agents are starting out at. I do know nationwide, they start off at 55%. I believe I sent you contracting for the company that we are encouraging to. If I haven't, send an email to david@naaip.org. At the very bottom of this video, it says email if you want recruiter level contracting for a top 5 life insurer. All the top life insurance companies, they're all selling retirement planning. That's where the money is made. We also have a major final expense company. I believe I sent you something on that, or any of the dozens of Medicare health companies. Send an email or send it back. I'm under a lot of pressure not to name these companies on this YouTube presentation. We are offering substantially higher commissions than anyone else in the business. You could imagine what will happen if we mention them. The insurance company will get a phone call from the insurance company saying, hey, we've got people recruiting at 50%. You guys are offering 100. In the case of the final expense, it's 122%. Then I would have to delete the video or do some massive editing. It's just not something I want to do. There's a couple of tremendous advantages we have over New York Life. Number one, it's double the commission. Number two, the website technology that we offer at no strings, no catches, free, is really an incentive-based marketing system. Incentive-based marketing means you could give these websites to other business owners. You'll set up your website in 5 minutes. You'll do the proper steps to move up the search engine, which happens to be original content and time on site. Those are the key tools. Google Local, Google Maps. You'll do that, and you'll show your website to your client. These people are going to say, how do I get that website? Especially home repair type people, those people that make money, that they work hard. And again, they make money. They're making a couple $100 off every home they go into. Just for they make $1,000. How much are those guys making nowadays? Those air conditioning, electricians, plumbers, how much are they making on a per day on average?
I don't know, but it's very expensive to hire anybody in a trade to come into your house. Very expensive. Plumbers.
So when they're making $1,000, $2,000 a day, I would imagine. Sure. These guys, I'm dealing with insurance agents the last couple of years who are out of their mind in regard to not doing their job properly. As an insurance agent, your job in a very concrete manner is to come across as a professional person. So I'm dealing with these people that, sign up for a website, but that's it. It's like they're in a different world. I understand why 90% of the agents get out of the business in a couple of years, because these are just not suitable people for this business. I would imagine a plumber and electrician, these are people that are not sitting in front of a computer. So if you set up these websites for them, and if you clicked around your password protected back office, Jim, you would have seen it's very good with video at the top. That's the key. If you could put the video at the top. If you have a telephone like this, you flip it to the side, you take a video of that plumber or electrician, you throw it at the top of the website, you write change the content around a little bit, and these guys are going to have a beautiful piece of technology that they could present to their clients, and they'll make more money. As an aside, if you want to sell these people insurance, I'm sure they will be very amenable. And that is a lead generation technique. I keep on going on this thing where I explain what I do, but in order to keep this interesting, I have to get on you. So let's flip over to what happened after where were you serving in New York? 20 years.
I was a police officer, a detective, and a sergeant, and then a detective sergeant. I did about 10 of my years in narcotics.
Wow. What is a detective
when
sergeant
I retired,
mean?
I had I'm sorry.
What does that mean? What is I remember Kojak, the detective. I shouldn't say I remember Hawaii Five. What show do I remember the most? It was Streets of San Francisco. You had Michael Douglas, the younger guy, the older guy, Carl Malden. What was Carl Malden?
He was a lieutenant. I was a sergeant. That's one rank above a sergeant.
So he was the head, like for the major crimes the lieutenant was solving. And Michael Douglas, his helper, what was he?
He was a detective.
In a police station, how many detectives? Yeah, I remember I lived in New York for a little bit. How many detectives are there?
Anywhere from 12 to 20 in each precinct, and there's 76 precincts in the city of New York.
How many police officers are in each precinct?
That varies tremendously because of the size of the geographical area of the precinct. But there's 35,000 of us now, but they
Okay, I'm
also
not so
cover-
good. So there could be like 300-400 police officers in each precinct. So there are 22
Yes.
detectives. So these were the people that passed the detective test, which I guess was a hard test to an extent.
Mhm. The detectives are promoted on merit in New York. The only tests are for sergeant, lieutenant, and captain.
So the 22 people in that particular precinct were promoted on merit, people that were good, apparently.
Did a good job, and were outstanding at what they did, and maybe one big outstanding case, but mostly just did a very good job and were recognized for their performance.
The head of the precinct would choose who the detectives were?
No, that's done by the administration and headquarters.
How would they know who was a good police officer to promote to detective?
Because their immediate supervisors would tout them, and they also had to do semi-annual reviews on them. So all of that information is accumulated, and then they decide who needs a promotion. If you get into some sort of an investigative position as a police officer and you do a good job, the odds are you're going to be promoted to detective. But
they're looking to promote detectives.
Yes.
Since there are, it's let's say 10% of all the people who are at the precinct are detectives.
Correct.
Okay. So how many, at what age were you a detective?
I was 30 when I became a detective.
And how many years did that last?
You have me doing math there in my head.
I mean, for a couple of years, you were a detective?
Yeah, I was a detective for six years, and then I became a sergeant.
And that involved a test?
That's a test, yes.
And how many sergeants were in that police precinct, approximately?
Anywhere from, well, you have to remember that there's 3 tours in each precinct. It works around the clock.
8 hours.
Yeah, so there's anywhere from 10 to 20 sergeants in each precinct.
And who's a famous sergeant on these TV shows? Sergeant Barney Miller? He was a sergeant.
Barney Miller was I think Barney was a lieutenant. Kojak was a sergeant.
So there were 12 sergeants at these police, 4 during the day, 4 in each shift.
Yeah.
At these big precincts. This is almost like an army base. And
sometimes there was a sergeant inside the station house. He was in charge of everything that came into the station house, and the other sergeant was out on patrol, and he was in charge of everything that was going on out in the street.
So a couple of two night shift on that regard.
Yeah.
And you stopped at sergeant, retired after 20 years?
Yes.
Could you have continued as a police officer?
I could have continued as a sergeant.
As a sergeant, that's it. I get
Yes.
As a sergeant, and you could you could have stuck around for 30 years.
Sure, but at the time, the reason I did retire was because I was in charge of a crack unit, and we were running around the streets locking up young people selling crack. And
wow,
but back then it was everybody was doing crack. It was just an epidemic.
That's when you had the crack babies, which was very sad. Very sad.
Now it's heroin.
I'm gladly I don't know about this stuff, but they were selling crack, which really messed people up.
Oh yeah, it was. There was no control over the fact that if you had money, you were going to buy more crack. That's how addictive it was. It was a very small, very intense high, but very short. So if you had more money in your pocket, you went and bought a few more vials.
So it really ruins people's lives.
Absolutely. They would steal from their mother and, knock down little old ladies on the street and take their handbags.
And this was crack was big in the middle 80s or late 80s?
Yeah, middle to late 80s, yes.
And the crack dealers, were they getting rich, the crack dealers?
The higher ups were. The kids a lot of kids on the street selling crack. Because
below 18.
Yeah, below 18. A lot of kids. So because they could work one day and buy $120 pair of sneakers where they didn't have to work 2 weeks in McDonald's.
In certain neighborhoods, people went out. A person drove. Let's just get into it. You had a white guy driving around in a primarily black neighborhood. That guy oftentimes was looking to buy crack.
Absolutely.
And you guys would be waiting there and doing some sort of profiling to stop these people?
Well, sometimes we did that, but the majority of the time was I had an undercover who was buying crack.
Really? Did he get known in the?
Yes.
Did people know who he was eventually?
No, he was very good. I mean, there was so many people selling crack. It was like you wouldn't bump into the same people ever. And we did this. I did this for the last 3 years of working, and it was just never ending.
Really? Did you ever get?
My undercover could go out and make 3 and 4 buys a day.
He was good.
He was good. We used to call him Crackhead.
I see. Did you ever get the higher up guys who were manufacturing and?
Yes, once in a while, but that was rare. I mean, because it was pretty well insulated. You know, just they would drop off a short amount to the kids on the street, and then when that was gone, they would come back with some more, and so. There were so many kids on the street selling. It was a priority to get them off the street. But if you worked in the higher narcotics units, they were after the bad guys. They were doing kilos of cocaine back then, and that was when you got into the bigger.
Did
areas.
Did the teenagers less than 18 ever tattle on their higher ups? They would never squeal. No one would squeal?
Nope. And even in the higher amounts of cocaine, they didn't squeal because it didn't behoove them to squeal because it might be detrimental to their family.
They would wipe out the wife, kids, everyone. That was the threat?
Yep.
For the kids, for the 17-year-old kids, let's say what's considered an adult where you really don't go to prison? Is it 17 or 16? 17.
If you were 16, you were a kid and you went to kiddie court, which is called family court. So that was basically a slap on the wrist, and they could be out a couple of days later doing it again, and then hopefully not get caught.
So this was a crime that you couldn't stop because of kiddie court, and they wouldn't squeal.
Correct.
Wow. Now I know why people stay in. Why China is doing well now. Like you just explained it. In fact, if you go back to history, China is becoming a rich country. Historically, China was always a rich country, except in the last 150, 200 years. And they had those, the British, King Charles and all his family, they figured out a way to addicted the Chinese people with opiates. And because of drugs, it broke down their society and they made them easy to conquer.
Sure.
So it sounds like we're not very far away based on 16-year-olds selling crack.
But I mean, now it's heroin, and the kids that you wouldn't think would be doing these drugs are doing these drugs. More affluent children are, getting high all the time.
But it'll be the same technique. If the laws are the same, it'll still be the 16-year-old kids selling it, the higher ups supplying it and pocketing the money.
Yep.
Did you try to get these people to squeal? These 16 or?
Oh yeah, sure, of course.
It had never worked.
They wanted no part of it whatsoever. Especially the kids. The kids didn't want any part of it. And again,
they were laughing at you. They were laughing at you.
They were laughing, yeah, because they knew that it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't nearly a big deal for them to get caught. They might spend a day in jail. They get a lawyer. And, some of them didn't have very good home lives. So this was a way for them to, I don't know, move up the ladder is what they thought.
And they were making more money than their parents based on working. That's a big deal for anyone. Okay, what else okay, so let me say, so what happened when you would catch a 17-year-old or an adult selling crack?
They would go to jail. They would go to regular criminal court. And depend on how many times they had been in there already, depending on their record, they could do time for that, and it wouldn't be long, maybe a year. But the courts were pretty lenient on sales, unless you had a record.
Unless you're making a career out of it, and you got caught multiple times where the judge knows you're making a career.
Correct.
And with these people, after, let's say, the third or fourth time a person gets caught, I suppose that it's for multiple years in jail?
Yes.
Would they ever squeal to lessen the sentence?
No, but the risk was worth it for them, because they were making so much money.
And they wanted about 4 years 4 or 5 years is a big. How about you weren't dealing with the smugglers, like someone who has a massive amount on them?
I did when I was a detective. I worked in the Drug Enforcement Administration Task Force as a detective, and we just worked with the Colombians who did kilos.
But those
people never talked.
Well, because they would wipe out the whole village, not just a family member.
I mean, they would kill the people that were in New York City. They would kill them, or maybe their family back in Colombia.
Wow. Yeah, I had a friend who told me, he said, you take that heroin one time, it has a tremendous addiction rate.
Mm-hmm.
Like I found it hard to believe you take something one time and you're addicted. But that's what he tells me on heroin. That's a very sad situation.
It is.
That's terrible. Wow. Okay, Jim, let's get back to what happened. So that's a high pressure. That's seeing a human tragedy, going to work every day and seeing a human tragedy.
I guess you could say that, yeah. But
so
it doesn't make you sit down and cry. I mean, because you kind of get a thick skin about it,
And you're looking forward to the pension that's happening in another 4 years.
Yeah.
So it makes it eases it a little. So at 43 years old, what did you end up doing?
I started working for a company that did lights and sirens for police cars.
Really?
I was a salesman for them, and that was a good job until they got bought out by an English company, and then they said, okay, we don't need these people that work for the company. We're taking our own people. But that was a good job. I did that for a number of years. I did the whole East Coast, but it was on the road all the time, so it was a lot of traveling. And I'd rather travel on my telephone now than travel in the car.
I see. So that brought you close to 50 years old on that job. So what happened the next job?
My good friend and I pooled our money, and we bought some rental houses in upstate New York in a college town that is one of the big New York State University college towns. And we did that for almost 10 years. That was pretty good. That was a good deal.
And you became a fix-it man to an extent?
Only minor fix-it. We had a property manager who took care of the major issues. So we didn't do a lot of hands-on stuff. Some of the smaller stuff we did, but
I get you. Yeah, I hate to mention a friend from upstate New York. He was telling me that was there's a certain county in upstate New York that's famous for growing marijuana. You probably know about that county. Electricity
No, I
is
don't.
inexpensive. Okay, it exists. Rent a big house, stack it from top to bottom with marijuana plants, the lighting, the electricity, until he got busted. He had the whole SWAT team in New York City bust his house. He claims, I don't know how true it is, he's claimed to have $1 million on cash in a garbage bag that disappeared after he got busted.
Oh, that's not nice.
That's not nice.
Where were you in New York?
I was living in Brooklyn for a very short period of time. I finished up a Brooklyn college, very short period of time. So I know the area a little bit, how they have those every was 100,000 people. How many precincts are there?
76.
So New York has 8 million people. So it's for every 100 and some odd thousand people you have a precinct. So it's 500 police officers per 100,000 people. Okay. Somewhere around there. Is that if we do the math, or it's some number? Okay. So the rental property, upstate New York, you came back down to Long Island?
Yes.
And I suppose you like the selling.
I do. I enjoy selling. I'm pretty good at it. I mean, I'll have to be honest with people about what it is I'm selling. I'm not a pushy salesman. I'm not. I try not to rub people the wrong way and get them to be interested in what I'm selling. When I was with the people that did lights and sirens, I did a lot of demos, and that always helped with the sale. Because we actually went out and did demonstrations for the potential clients, and we did very well with the sales. We were the biggest seller and manufacturer in the country.
I get you. And how long have you had an insurance license?
How many hours is it?
I mean, how long have you been how many years or months have you been a licensed agent?
I just got my license.
So you just got it. I get you. Okay, so I have to mention to you, if you succeed in financial sales, it's huge. So many people are coming into this business who do not succeed. The primary reason is they're not suitable for the business. Mm-hmm. So when you deal with these various recruiters and marketing companies, they're actually used to dealing with people that they know will not succeed, which is much different than these other companies that you've applied for in the past, where they interviewed a bunch of people and they hired one. The lighting company for the siren company that you work for, you weren't the only one to apply, but they hired you. As I mentioned before, there is a method to the madness. In my personal opinion, the New York Life technique is the superior technique. You learn the product, a product that you could make money on. For the most part in financial sales, it's the huge advantage that life insurance companies have with deferred taxes, that deferred interest, which eventually becomes tax-free. If you're going to buy a life insurance policy, you might as well add money to it at 5, 6, 7% interest. It just makes logical sense. And you show people an illustration. The illustration should sell itself. And that's the New York Life technique. You learn the product, the top 5. Let me change this banner on the site. It says, email me if you want recruiter level contracting for top 5 life insurance, a major final expense, or any of the dozens of Medicare health carriers. You show people the illustration. You collect $400, $500, $600, $700 a month, and that money goes to you, as you get the majority of the first year commission. Mm-hmm. If you're outside of New York, it would be 100%, between 90 and 100%. In New York, it's a little bit less. They have different laws, but it's still a nice chunk of change. And as I was going on that tangent before, everyone's concerned about leads. You really have to do what's best for you. The New York Life technique is you write out a list of your favorite 200 people. You let me go to sharing a screen right now. I'm going to share my screen. Let's become an expert on lead generation. And let's go here. I'm going to go to our NAIP website. At the very top, there's a click here for leads, domains, quotas, e-contracting portal. I'll click leads. If Jim, could you see my screen now? If you're on YouTube?
Yes.
Okay, your job as an insurance agent is to get in front of people and to close deals. I suppose closing deals is second nature to you. That's why you got a license. Getting in front of people is a technique that you have not done. Every possible lead generation technique is listed on this page. Everything from buying postcards to consumer data to door knocking, direct mail. I'm scrolling down, do-it-yourself mailers, aged. I sprinkle in there about $8 and $9 leads. Referrals are huge. If you ever was to get hired by New York Life, they would really, pound in you the importance of referrals, because the 200 people that you list on that piece of paper that you will contact and show illustrations from morning till night, eventually you get to the bottom of the list where there's no one else on the list. So you really have to get good at this referral business. And it's really just, getting into a method of every person you go to, that they make a list of other people to go to, that it's a never-ending career. My favorite lead generation technique happens to be incentive-based marketing, because that's what NAIP is doing. We're giving you a website. No strings, no catches, no nothing. We're encouraging you to use the website, which means putting the website on your own domain name, doing the proper steps to move up the search engine. That's incentive-based marketing. This website doesn't cost me a nickel when new people use it. We want more people to use it. Whatever business you're in, always try to think of ways of stuff that you could give people. And I do know if you're into this retirement planning, 15, 20% of every person walking down the street owns their own business. So you could give these people a website. Very easy to do, especially if you manipulate the websites properly. With video at the top, they look very impressive. You run into a building trade professional, plumber, take his picture, video, throw it at the top, edit the content. This all takes about 20 minutes. And this guy will love you to no end. If you're into this final expense, which I know a lot of new agents are into, put yourself in their shoes. What do these people need? For the most part, they need experts. There's something written here. It says, a great idea, another great idea, a concierge service for FEX clients. Help your client get best prices on caskets, tombstones, etc. Be an expert. Go to the local funeral homes, see what these people are going through, find out what the prices are. Google the word online casket, see what they could get if you handle it, or if they do a search. Another great free vacations. There's a company out here called marketingboost.com. You can give people free vacations, but you still have to pay the taxes and fees, and we are during a pandemic. We're towards the tail end. Let me see what it says here. Get your free, okay, a great idea. Free last will and testament. If you scroll down to the bottom of NAIP, there's a click there to under sales tools. Last will, Wishes and Legacy Guide by Gerber. Last will and testament. Free will, be a digital agent. You click that, doyourOwnWill.com. You'll see how easy it is to do. Imagine if you become a notary public and you have a list, you keep copies of hundreds and hundreds of wills in your home file cabinet. You will be relatively popular in the local community. But again, always thinking how you can make yourself a valuable member of the community in a way that really doesn't cost you money. And that's some of the things we could always be thinking about. Okay, let me get back from screen sharing. What you really have to avoid as a new agent is being taken to the cleaners. These jobs you had in the past, Jim, you collected a salary. These were companies that were making money. They hired you specifically because they believed you were qualified for the job, and they were correct. You stuck around for a while, you made the money. You're coming into an industry where the people that are hiring you have a feeling in their belly that they're wasting their time, so that they will want to take advantage of you. Just keep that in mind. If you could pull this off on your own, which means you get appointed to the insurance company, you learn the product, you have the game plan which you implement, you end up becoming rich. The vast majority of people coming into this business will not do that. They won't implement it, and then they move on to a different job. But it's definitely feasible and doable. The website technology that we're giving you, which you did sign up for, hopefully you'll put the website on your own domain name, because you know as a salesperson for the last couple of years that closing is hard. It's all going to be based if these people believe that you're a professional, that you're the king. You know, Schaefer Bear, the king of bears. That's Budweiser. If they believe you're the financial service king of this industry, they have no idea you started last week. You'll have a business card, you'll have a website. I would not. You don't lie to people. You shouldn't. You'll mislead people. But if they ask you how long you've been doing this, I have memory problems. I don't remember. Let's talk about something else. They can believe you've been doing this for 20, 30, 40 years. And you have to do everything you can do to have these people believe that. And the website definitely will make that more likely.
I have two questions. Can I ask?
Sure. I hear you.
Is the National Life Group, are they listed?
Okay, actually, I can't specifically mention any insurance companies, because these companies will be majorly upset if I mention any of these companies. But I will send you, if I've not already, all you got to do is send me an email with the word, send me contract for top 5 life insurance company, and I will send that to you. Your job is to learn the product from backwards and forwards, really be an expert. When you do get a major life insurance company, you pivot from one product to another in their portfolio. The top 5 life insurance company that we sent you, they have everything except final expense. And there was I may have sent you another final expense company that we're working with in New York. It's one company in New York, a different company nationwide.
You did.
Health and Medicare is a completely different contracting system. The issue with Medicare that you shouldn't realize, it's fairly profitable, but they do make you do certifications every year. And if you don't pass the certifications, they stop paying you all residual monies on the Medicare Advantage. So it may be something you should consider. This is a fairly hard certification process.
Okay. So you need to do the anti-money laundering.
Right. At the very top, when you do the contracting, you do it. I'll tell you where it is. If you're looking at my screen, I'm going to tell you where it is.
I know where it is, but first you have to get contracted, I guess, right?
Yeah, it doesn't make a difference. It takes 5 or 10 minutes to do the anti-money laundering. I should mention my company happens to be really good at moving up the search engine. I'll go back to screen share so you can see what I'm looking at. I will Google the word anti-money laundering course free. Pretty basic thing to Google. The first one that pops up, or among the top, maybe I lost my touch. It's number 3. I get a lot of hits on this. Right here. If you click this, it's taking you to bogus information. So please do not do this course. It takes you to I should explain it a little bit more. In order to get to the top of the search engine on anything, it's based on original content and time on site. So I had to come up with something original and unique and that keeps people on for an extended period of time. If I just say to people, click here, it's not very interesting. There would be no time on site, and people would never see it on the search engines. For whatever strange reason, I wrote this page and it went to the top. I'm like, what the heck? It went to the top. But this is not what you should be doing. At the very bottom of NAAIP.org, it says sales tools. In alphabetical order, anti-money laundering course free. You click this. You can do it now if you want. It takes a very small period of time. You click this. Forgot your username. I believe it's going to be based on your national producer number. There's another click here. Forgot your password. It's going to be based on your last name or something to that effect. And you could get in the system and you're good to go. So you could do it now. It makes no difference.
Okay.
And that's the traditional way that most people do anti-money laundering, through that link, which is at the bottom of naip.org, right here. They also require errors in admission if you sell a normal insurance company besides the final expense. I'm pretty sure I put a click here where it says E&O, no requirements, with and without union, $31 a month, which is the cheapest out there. There's nothing cheaper. If you include annuities, it is more money. I'm not mentioning on this wording, if you were to pay on a monthly basis, they charge a decent chunk of change. I believe it's $6 for every payment. So if you make 2 payments, an extra $12. If you make it 12 payments, it's much more. But $31 times 12 is the cheapest you'll see. Okay, let me get off screen share. Jim, since you know what it's like to be a new agent in this business, what companies have you looked at? What recruiting organizations?
Oh God. I'd have to look at my computer because there's so many of them. Can I make you smaller? Yeah, I can. Hang on.
Okay, I got plenty of time. I'm just relaxing.
ABN Financial is one.
What is ABN
Financial?
Let me ABM.
N as in Nancy.
I'm gonna Google them right now. ABN Financial. I see something about Glassdoor report. Let me see what they say. Where were they located? It told me right here. Integrity Marketing Group. They're based in Ohio. Okay, I've never heard of them. But
they seem to be part of a big marketing company.
Right. They have a nice corporate headquarters somewhere. They've got, you see the video at the top of their website. Now you understand why I'm so excited. Let me go to screen share so you see what I'm looking at. I Googled, I got to their website, ABN Financial. You see how pretty this video is at the top of the site? How impressive it is? How professional it can look, then the content is below. That's what we've created for you, but you have to input the video. We do have 27 videos to choose from. I told my programmer I like this video idea so much, we're going to input another 70 videos. But ideally, you could put your own video. As a financial salesperson, Jim, your job is to be impressive. Putting your video at the top of you looking all professional is probably the best way to go. But you would have to do that yourself. No one's going to do it for you.
Okay.
Okay, well, let's see about this ABN Financial. They've got all these companies have all the same companies. Mortgage Protection Center. What is this? a bunch of companies they work with. It's hard for these companies. Do they have a headquarters in New York?
I don't know. I didn't get that far with them. I just, looked at them.
Okay, I've never really heard of them, but I would imagine, people care about getting in front of people and closing deals. This is not like, rocket science. The more
There's
you
another one
depend,
called Redbird Network. Redbird Network.
they're pretty good. Redbird Net. RedbirdAgents.com. A lot of times these new companies, they're really targeting mortgage protection and final expense, and specifically so they could sell you leads.
Yep, that's what I told you. I said that's all final expense.
That's all it
their
is.
big thing.
Come into our organization. Let's buy postcards from us. If you're interested in that technique, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to go to NAIP, click the word leads. You've got 4 or 5 different postcard companies that are more than willing to sell you the leads. It's not a good idea to buy postcards or Facebook leads from these companies because they end up selling it to someone else in their organization in the future. It's also, if you're interested in that, you're really doing a deep dive of what's best for you. I know I'm speaking a lot about this retirement planning, which involves a little bit more intellectual capacity because it will involve you learning the product from morning till night for a week. Once you're properly contracted, the company that we're highlighting, our top 5 life insurance company, they have seminars 5 days a week. And that does not involve anyone in my organization making any money. When you go into these other companies that are pushing final expense and mortgage protection, as soon as you're in this system, the next call you get from these people is to buy leads, to empty out your bank account. They probably like you a lot. You've got a pension. You've been around the block.
I've only looked at these people. I've never contacted anybody. You're the only organization I contacted. I just thoroughly looked at all their sites and what they were offering.
I see. But that's what it is. This is not anything new. Get in front of people, close deals. The people that you're dealing with at these other companies are not, they don't add extra, they're not adding extra value. If they were, it would be good, but they're not. NAIP is one of the few situations out there that we add an extra value because the website technology we give you is something that will definitely help you make more money. Even if you were to work for these other people, you could still take our website and make that part of your package. It makes no difference whatsoever. Okay, what else we have to talk about? Okay, I'm gonna get going right now. We've got Jim still on this call. Jim, I do appreciate you all coming here. Do you have any other questions?
When I send you the email for contracting, that would be, that would be for all the top 5 companies?
Right. Actually, we're trying to keep stuff relatively simple.
Okay.
One major life insurance company, it says email if you want recruiter level contracting from a top 5. It doesn't mean it's 5 companies. It's one top 5 life insurance company, which happens to be a mutual company, which means it's owned by the policyholders. It's easier to sell on these retirement planning vehicles where you really make money. We have a major final expense company that we're definitely, we start people off at 122%, which is really good. When it comes to Medicare or health insurance, it definitely pays to be able to offer more than just one company. If you're into the Medicare market, which you may not be, but if you were, we set people up at Walmart or Walgreens or CVS, where especially during that open enrollment period, and that would involve certifications. And we work with multiple companies, not just a couple. But we could hit that when it becomes an issue.
Okay.
If you were desirous to sell Medicare products. But at your stage of the game where you come across as reasonably professional, it may not be a bad idea to go head to head on that retirement planning vehicles and learning a major insurance company's product line where you can make decent money.
I think I want to be thoroughly educated before I branch out to Medicare, but that's an option. But I want to be comfortable with what I'm doing.
Right. If you can make decent money on becoming a financial professional, then a year later or 6 months later, 2 years later, say, hey, I want to sell the various Medicare companies at a local Walmart, have a booth. But especially every insurance agent has something called a warm market. And you could present those 200 warm market people a financial illustration where you can make $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 per sale. That's something you probably don't want to give up on. And it doesn't involve you buying leads or anything like that.
Okay. Yeah, I know.
Warm market. Right, warm market, and that's really the most successful technique out there. And if you do this website stuff well, putting the website on your own domain name, doing the proper steps to move up the search engine, people will believe you're a professional, which is pretty darn important. So let's get this done. Okay, I do thank you for being here, Jim. I am here 6 days per week. That's Monday to Thursday, 12 noon Eastern time, Saturday, Sunday, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm trying to learn this system. I believe I'm getting a little bit better every time. The first couple of calls I was doing, I was saying, hey, my name's David, but this is what I do. Well, how many times can you say that? It gets boring. Then I figured out you could use these captions I throw at the bottom. So why did I really have to say what I do when I could just write it and have it at the bottom?
Good. It was very good. Very, very helpful, informative. I enjoyed this.
I'm glad to hear that. And remember, this could help you out as well. Remember, I'm saying, hey, join NAIP, sell our products. Hey, there may be some $1 million company out there that says, Jim, we like you so much. We'll give you a better deal. Sit with us, and you see how you look on Zoom. Being good on Zoom is part of the sales process during this pandemic. Seeing how your microphones and speakers work, and what type of speaker are you using, or microphone?
I'm not using anything. Just what's on the camera.
Oh, you have a laptop computer?
A MacBook Pro.
Oh, MacBook. So it's a MacBook Pro. What are you using? There's no volume coming back. You hear me from your speaker, but it's not coming into this conversation as an echo, which is pretty good.
No, it's not.
There's no echo whatsoever from your computer.
No.
Beats me. I'm new at this. That's why I put this headset on, because I didn't want it to come from here. Then it would become an echo. I
think that would be a good investment, to buy a headset with a microphone, and so you don't have any feedback.
But there is no feedback on your computer.
No.
There's none, so it's working well. Okay, I am glad to hear that, Jim. So we have great, or at least I have great hopes for your next career.
Thank you.
And
I do too.
The trick is to realize who the successful people are. And in my personal opinion, these companies that are hiring these career agents and learning a somewhat complicated product line and collecting $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 per sale is probably the best way to go right from the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
This way you can make money without going bankrupt.
Okay. Great.
Okay. I do think I'm going to end this call right now. Jim, I do appreciate you coming, and I'm looking forward to good things happening.
Thank you very much.
Take care. Bye-bye. Okay, Jim, sadly, Jim had to leave us. I do appreciate you all coming here to my YouTube 6-day per week broadcast. Please make a comment, tell other people about the show. I will be here tomorrow as well. and have a terrific rest of the